paid acquisition just gets more and more expensive the more you tunnel down that. And it's like when you're up against like these big players that kind of their pockets are much bigger than ours, you've got to play it a little bit smarter.
What Instant does is help a brand identify the anonymous web traffic that's visiting their website. You're spending all this cash on Facebook ads, driving so much traffic to your website. You just have no idea who these people are, no way to retarget them, remarket them.
With all the work that we've done to make these gorgeous flows, if we could send them to almost double the amount of people, it's hopefully looks like double the amount of rev, right, that are attributed to those flows.
So even after Black Friday, Cyber Monday, how are you getting to know these shoppers so that you can promote to them after the sale period, bring them back to the brand? If you don't like more revenue with the click of a button, don't use us.
Lachi and Liam, welcome to the D2C podcast. Lachi, you are head of technology at July. Can you give us a bit of a rundown? Because I know you've been established on the other side of the world there over in Australia and New Zealand for quite a while, and you've since made your move into North America. But tell me a little bit about July and how it came about.
Yeah, so July started in July 2018. That's when the business was created. The goal was just kind of, Australia didn't really have like a standout luggage brand, or especially in like the direct-to-consumer. No one was really doing like direct-to-consumer luggage in Australia. So we just like listened to a heap of the customer complaints about like where suitcases were going wrong. Just kind of compiled everything and created what we thought was going to be like the best suitcase. And then that transitioned through 2019. And then we had like a small range, and then COVID hit 2020, of course. And we kind of just buckled down while sales were low and just like really focused on new product development and just like expanded the range into like bags and everything that we thought that travel needed at the time. And then post-COVID, it just kind of took off. And we've just been like riding the wave ever since.
Very cool. It's a distinct looking luggage. I always love products that kind of are their own billboard in a lot of ways. And I imagine with a product like this, it's the more success you have, the more people become aware of your product.
Yeah. I mean, it's gorgeous, right? It's always about like, in fact, the luggage space has definitely turned into a spot where luggage is now more of an accessory rather than just something you throw your clothes in. So it's always been like a direction that we've wanted to go, that it always looks nice and chic when you're in the airport.
So during the growth phase of July that you find yourself in now, what are some of your biggest challenges when it comes to new customer acquisition?
Yeah, I mean, paid acquisition just gets more and more expensive the more you tunnel down that. And it's like when you're up against like these big players that kind of their pockets are much bigger than ours, you've got to play it a little bit smarter. So like paid acquisition will always be part of our game plan, but it's like how do you become a little bit smarter in using like your non-paid channels like your emails and your SMS and getting people to really buy into the brand a little bit more, which is kind of where like Instant comes into the conversation, where we're really trying to figure out how we can maneuver our non-paid channels to be as profitable on that first purchase as we can. Just
because you've paid so much, and increasingly this season with the US elections and with Q4, of course, the cost to bring someone to your website is that much more expensive. Liam, walk us through Instant and where Instant kind of came from and what it's trying to do.
Good to, thanks for having us on the podcast, Eric. I mean, and July is such a great brand that we've been working with. Every time, we're always in the airport, and I think a couple of years ago, you wouldn't see July at all, and now almost every traveler has it, particularly here. So it's they've had incredible growth. For Instant, I mean, we're working with so many brands, particularly in Australia and the US. And what Instant does is help a brand identify the anonymous web traffic that's visiting their website. You're spending all this cash on Facebook ads, like Lockie said, driving so much traffic to your website. You just have no idea who these people are, no way to retarget them, remarket them, and majority of them leave your website.
What percent generally? What's the benchmark for how many people you lose?
We're around 98% of the people that visit your website. You have absolutely no idea who they are. So, the 2% that convert, great. But how do we start to identify and know who the largest chunk of those shoppers are the ones that you don't know and they abandon, and Instant helps you kind of uncover them.
I'm curious, Lucky, you're head of technology at July. So what was it? What were you, and you don't, especially with a tool like this that sort of sits on top of what you're already doing and kind of increases your results incrementally, how did you know what you were looking for? Or how did you come across this product and know it was right for what you guys were doing?
So I think me and Liam have actually been in conversations for a really long time before we started using the platform itself, but we put in a lot of work to get our like existing email flows like really top tier, like making them all look gorgeous, all like in the July branding. And then the amount of people we're sending them to was very limited by the amount of people that we can that Klaviyo can attribute customers to. And when the conversation came around of like instant, we were trying to figure out, like, with all the work that we've done to make these gorgeous flows, if we could send them to almost double the amount of people, it's hopefully looks like double the amount of rev, right, that are attributed to those flows. So then, but the numbers that we're looking for, right, is from the people that Instant can identify and send us through their emails to send them through these flows. How can we prove that, like, these people are then more likely to convert by receiving these flows rather than just they were interested and they were on site and they were going to purchase? So we actually came forward to the Instant guys and asked, hey, we really want to prove like incremental revenue lift here. How do we do it? So we sat down and we figured that we wanted to do like an A/B test where we split out half of the people that Instant identified and then track the people that did get the emails and the people that didn't, how more likely they were to convert. And we ran that for a couple of weeks, and I think that the number ended up being a 17% incremental revenue boost from the being able to attribute and send these emails to these people, which was huge.
And then at what sort of scale, like how many users that you wouldn't usually be able to recognize are you able to recognize through Instant?
So I think the numbers are like, it's a little over double the amount of people that we can put through the flows. So yeah.
That seems like simple math. You have great flows, double the amount of people seeing the flows. Liam, give us a little bit about how the sausage is made. How are we getting this data?
Yeah, so I mean, today, I think the biggest challenge is that when a shopper visits your website, they identify themselves via a newsletter form, abandoned checkout, and the cookie is created to try and help you as a brand remember who that shopper is. But when that shopper comes back a couple of hours later or 2 days later, you have absolutely no idea who they are. And so you've got this loyal shopper, they've probably got distracted, kids running around, mum's busy, whatever, and they don't purchase. And, you know, particularly for higher value items or etc., you know, there's a lot of consideration that goes into the purchase. However, you've spent so much money getting this shopper to your website. And so what Instant does is help a brand remember who shoppers are for longer, indefinitely. A shopper identifies himself on your website. We store that cookie server side rather than on device, which I guess is the power of Instant. And that's kind of the core technology. And then we're able to remember those shoppers longer, giving the brand the ability to like retarget and remarket them via email, Meta, etc. when they come back.
Super cool. We've talked with one or two of other players in the space who kind of have a similar value proposition in that they say you can generate more emails, more people to send your flows to. What's different about Instant about some of the other ones that we may have heard of?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think that we're kind of always improving on our side. The first and most important thing is that we are the best at identification and being able to identify a shopper. So we only use opted-in data from our network. It's very enriched. We track kind of deliverability, spam rates, etc. And so when a brand is sending an email to a shopper, one, we've been able to identify more of them, but the emails we are sending out are more likely to convert. We're not buying data from across the internet. It's all opted in. The second thing is we also have so much more outside of identification, like helping a brand to automatically generate their email flows right from in our dashboard. So rather than needing to go into Klaviyo, spend hundreds of thousands of dollars with an email marketing agency creating all these flows, you can simply go in the Instant dashboard and click generate, and we build the best converting retargeting email flow for you in a single tap. So they're just a couple of things, and there's so many more. But you know, that's kind of the start.
From an integration standpoint, Lachi, are you using different flows? Like when it comes to these users that you're identifying through Instant, are you adding to them to the same list? Are you keeping them segmented? And then also, are you creating different actual flows or different language on the flows for people that are opted in this way versus the traditional way?
Yeah, so the flows are definitely separated out. So all of our Instant flows and all of our traditional flows are all separated out into different channels. So we can track the metrics because they are a little bit different. And then all of the people that are coming in are already subscribers in our Australian subscriber base. It's just being able to track them further where Klaviyo couldn't already identify them. So if they're not opted in, they're not going to be getting all these emails through the flows, and they're definitely different lists. Like they're not getting merged, so that we can have all the analytics run separately.
And then I know increasingly, like Gmail, for instance, is tightening its standards. Do you notice is there like noticeable or problematic drop in performance at all when it comes to these other opted-in users?
No, because I think that something that's really good about it is these people are actually high intent customers. Like these are people that aren't just like viewing the homepage. All of our flows are based off like whether they've viewed a particular product, whether they've added to cart, whether they've gone all the way to checkout, which are like pretty high intent customers. It's not like we're just sending out a newsletter out to emails that are probably dead. These are customers that are like they are interested in purchasing July or interested about learning about the brand.
That's something that we've really prioritized. Particularly, it's just you want to be sending as many emails as possible, but you also want those emails to actually convert. Otherwise, it kind of has the negative effect where you're just spamming so many people who have absolutely no intent to ever purchase and are just not across your brand in the first place. So brands should really look, okay, so someone's landed on your website. Have they returned multiple times? Have they visited the same product multiple times? Have they added an item to their cart? Kind of looking for these really high intent signals before sending an email. And you just see conversion really skyrocket.
And then, so specifically, Lucky, what are we? We talk about funnel support a lot on the email side of the podcast. What are the most successful triggers? I would say is it cart abandonment. Obviously, I think is a big one. Is there something where someone hits a certain product a number of times? Like, what are the most successful triggers you find with Instant?
Yeah, so for sure it's checkout abandonment. Like if they're going all the way through and they're like just before purchase, that is the most likely to convert.
Lowest hanging fruit.
Yeah. The second after that is you add to carts. Because like if you're adding to cart, it's an intent that you might want to purchase, but you're not locked in yet. So it's like, and then after that, it's like viewing a collection and viewing a product page are still pretty high intent, but are less likely to purchase because they are still in the browsing stage of everything. And you've got to have the messaging right for each level of this to make sure you're not telling them, hey, buy this right now at the point of viewing a product, because it's a very different experience to getting all the way to checkout. But it's about like meeting the customer where they're at in that journey, and like telling them the messaging that you think that they will need to get to that next step.
And I imagine the conversions are pretty quick. Like, or is there a lot of latency? Are they finding these emails later? Or I guess anytime you can meet the customer where they're at in that moment, they check their inbox, that's when you're going to have the highest likelihood of success.
Yeah, I mean, it also depends on like what sort of promos you're running on the side at the time, right? So I think in like non-promo periods, we do it about an hour after the event happened. But if you're looking at like a Black Friday weekend, you actually want to shorten that down to like 30 minutes because the cycle for purchasing in those high promo periods is just so much quicker. So it's about kind of like meeting halfway. It's like don't do it directly after they've purchased. Give them a little bit of time to brew. But in those promo periods, you definitely want to be hitting them pretty quick.
Very cool. Did you have this in place last Black Friday?
No, we started in April. So this is going to be a test over this November.
Very cool. Is there anything specific that you're prepping for? Or I guess you're always optimizing your flows, I guess. But is there anything sort of specific in the planning phases that you have this year for handling the load this Q4?
Yeah, there's a lot of work that goes into emails over November. The main thing is just like getting everything optimized for that like high intent, high cadence purchases where like people are probably going to purchase a lot quicker over this period, and making sure that our emails are speaking to that as well.
The other thing over this period, maybe even not changing your emails too much because you kind of start to figure out your ads that work really well or your emails that work really well. So you don't want to really mess around with it too much. The biggest advantage kind of over this period is so you're driving so much traffic to your website. So even after Black Friday, Cyber Monday, how are you getting to know these shoppers so that you can promote to them after the sale period, bring them back to the brand, etc. So I would say that's something that is really top of mind as well.
I'm just curious, Lucky, what is July's sort of philosophy towards discounts and promos in general? You're probably not a heavy discount brand.
No, we actually almost never promo. November is like the only time that we do promo, and it's not really a discount on the product. It's like a tiered bundling kind of situation where like you got to hit certain levels, then you get a certain amount off. But because it's like the only time that we properly go on like a discount throughout the year, it's a very busy time for us.
I bet. And you know what your promo is going to be this year? And you just don't want to out it in case you have like crazy customers who are listening to the Business to Business podcast?
It's a good deal. It's a good deal.
Nice. Oh, I'll have to keep my eyes peeled. So at this point, what are the most effective growth levers for bringing people top of funnel to your site? You mentioned at the beginning sort of expanding what you're thinking of, in terms of customer acquisition this year. What have been some of the more successful endeavors, maybe outside of Meta?
Outside of Meta, interesting. We've actually put a lot of work into Meta as the main thing. Yeah. Prioritizing reach in Meta over impressions. Really trying to find new audiences within Meta itself. from that, trying to figure out how the customers that you are reaching new, turning them into like lifelong customers, has kind of been the goal for this year.
I feel like on your side, Lucky, you also had some pretty insane partnerships this year that drove some growth, right?
Yes, we had a partnership with the Olympics where all the Olympians got some July suitcases taken out to Paris. Custom
Did
suitcases.
Raygun get one?
Raygun got one.
Raygun got one. Well, that's a claim to fame. That was my other Halloween. We were talking about Halloween costumes earlier. I was like, I could just get an Australian national Olympic outfit and just go as a Ray, just practice my moves and go Raygun. Well, that is definitely a great claim to fame, and it was a very successful. Again, not many more prestigious travelers than the National Olympic team.
Yeah, it was great. So we also did we had 10 cases at the end of it that we gave away, and they sold out in less than a minute. We did a night before, we sent out an email being like, anyone that wants these, we're going to do a giveaway, and we're just blown away by the response. We had so many DMs being like, I'm so upset that I missed this. I had alarms set for 2 a.m. to try and buy this. Yeah.
That's wild. You mentioned the big A/B test where you proved the incrementality and that kind of won out. Are you still running A/B tests all the time on different flows to see what works best, or do you just sort of testing them over time?
It's a bit of both. When we do a lot of tests that are just kind of tweak something, see how it goes, tweak something, see how it goes. But for things that are a little bit bigger of changes, we're A/B testing all that sort of stuff where we're just splitting the traffic out. And even not just for emails, for almost everything that we do in the business that's marketing related, we'll A/B test so much of it just to kind of see where the market's at, because even if you run something 6 months ago that works, it might not be working today just because your customers change, what they want changes. So it's just something you've just got to constantly stay on top of to keep evolving.
Very cool. And then Liam, what when it comes to your data network that you're kind of building this off of, it's probably always growing in the background. What other sort of developments are you kind of focused on at Instant?
I think for us now, we're two things, just getting as many brands on board as possible. The last quarter alone, we onboarded over 250 new brands with audiences. That was insane. And just seeing, how immediate the results are, is just awesome. I was on a podcast yesterday, with a brand called Lilo, their women's activewear brand, doing about 10 mil online, and just being able to increase their revenue by $60,000 or $80,000 a month, is so impactful. And so now how do we kind of bring that into either new products or features? And so something we're incredibly focused on is basically automating the entirety of email retargeting. Like I was saying before, you simply land on our dashboard, and we've been able to learn over the past year the emails that work the best, what triggers to look for to send emails, the design of an email, what to include in an email. And so rather than leaving brands to kind of second guess these flows themselves, how can we just do it all for them in simply a tap of a button? And so that just brings increased revenue, better conversion, etc. So that's something we're pretty focused on at the moment.
Do you have any other triggers or sort of ideas or creative things you're seeing brands do with Instant that you'd like to shout out?
I think the brands that see incredible success are always the brands that go live right before a sales period or a giveaway or something like that. Kind of an event that gets so much traffic to their website so they can start better identifying their shoppers. And so we had a brand that was giving away a camper van. They went live with audiences and Instant 2 weeks before. And during the giveaway and campaign period, they were able to identify so many more shoppers that landed on their website. And so the giveaway didn't just turn into a giveaway, it turned into this massive retargeting campaign afterwards, which drove so many sales. And you kind of see that same way, in advance of an influencer giveaway or Black Friday, Cyber Monday coming up. And because it only takes an hour to go live, you can just start to see immediate revenue right before one of these campaigns.
That's what I was going to ask Lachi about, the integration. It sounds pretty plug and play where you're just instantly tapping into the network.
Yeah, I mean, so we're Shopify headless as well. So usually most integrations for us are pretty tough. There's a little bit of battle to get it exactly where you need it. But we went live, I think, in 2-3 days with these guys. It was a very good experience.
Super
and
cool.
It's been pretty plug and play since, I would say.
It has.
Just log into the dashboard. It's just the pixel exists on your website and just hopefully increases your revenue.
It's been great.
I don't normally. Are there any reasons a brand wouldn't do this, Liam? They just don't like additional revenue per month? What's? I guess the frequency is proving that it's a pretty popular proposition.
I mean, the only thing I can think of is brands are skeptical about attribution when it comes to email. That's a very common thing, but in our case, and just like Lockie was talking about before, we've done so much work to prove the results behind instant, like the A/B test with July and so many other brands. We've kind of ruled that out. And so, yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Eric. Like if you don't like more revenue with the click of a button, don't use us.
And it's almost like a bit of an arms race heading into Q4 and this like the most competitive time. So if you can afford to bid, 15, 17% more than your competitors because you've got this tool in place, then you're gonna have that advantage. Lockie, any advice to brands out there that are in similar positions to July about instant?
I mean, the integrating with Instant is the easy part. I think getting your email flows right is definitely a big part of it. Like specific to your customers, how they like to have that journey, and like what you need to say at those different touch points to really get that conversion. But like Instant is for sure just like the easy way through to get more emails through it as well.
We mentioned a little bit about SMS. It might be early days, but are there any plans for the SMS, or is there an SMS portion of the service available already?
We're not doing SMS at the moment. It is something that we're like pretty top of mind. We're just, we launched Instant back in January as an addition to our wider product suite. We've just been pretty heads down onboarding so many brands since then. So moving into next year, I definitely imagine it'll be something that's pretty top of mind, alongside Meta and TikTok and these social channels as well.
You mentioned sort of 40 to 60% coverage in terms of identifiable shoppers, and is that sort of maybe not global, but that's within North America, and like what are your strongest geos? I guess
we're pretty strong globally. We focus mostly on North America and Australia at the moment, but identification is pretty consistent around 40 to 60% between there. Globally with brands. So, going live with brands in North America or Australia, they see very similar results in terms of, what Instant brings to their business. So it's very, we're a global product, and we work with so many brands as well that have, operations in Australia. They see incredible results and, they want to go live in the UK or the US. And I think that might even be the case with July as well. And we see that it's vice versa. We go live with a brand in North America and they're like, hey guys, these results are fucking awesome. Can we go live in our other regions as well? And, it's just simply flick it on in the dashboard.
I'm interested, Lucky, from a brand that's gone, huge in Australia to kind of cracking the U.S. market. Any observations or key learnings or differences about the U.S. market that you find versus Australia?
Yeah, the U.S. love to return stuff.
Tourism culture.
Yeah. No, they're entirely different markets. Like they buy things differently. They interact with brands differently. They return differently. And I think you've got to treat it as such. I don't think that you can just have like a plug and play handbook that you use in Australia or a different market and say that it's just going to work in the US because they have more people there. I think you've definitely got to have feet on the ground. You've got to be treating it as its own market. Put in the work, I guess.
Yeah, we did some work for a British CPG client, and we sent them over pictures of stuff in the kitchen. They're like, no British kitchens look like that. The kitchen's way too big and nicely lit. You need to get it all dank and old school, but you need to think about things like that. Yeah,
it even comes down to like when you're doing photo shoots, the models, like Americans can pick out Americans in models, and if you're using Australian models in an American marketing campaign, they see it, they notice. It's even down to like little stuff like that.
I actually have a superpower where I can tell, because in Canada we do take a lot of Australian commercials, and I can tell when it's been dubbed. I can tell when someone is using an Australian accent and it's being dubbed over with a Canadian. There's some subtle differences there, even within the Commonwealth.
Yeah.
Well, Liam, I'm just curious. What let's just send them to the landing page. Like we've got thousands of podcast listeners on this page, on this podcast. So we haven't presented any reason why they shouldn't sign up. So they should probably go to instant.one and check it out. What does it look like? What does the billing model look like? I think everyone's always curious about like what billing models for a product like this looks like.
Yeah, our billing is on a sliding scale. We generally try and target 6 times ROI plus for a brand. And so, completely make it a no-brainer. No-brainer in the results, no-brainer in the pricing. So no matter the size of brand that you are, we adjust our pricing to suit you, and we're on a monthly subscription. So no lock-ins, cancel anytime. Although we've never had a customer cancel. And so particularly in advance of Black Friday, Cyber Monday, like I think this is definitely the strongest period of the year We've seen brands have seen incredible results right before other sales periods. This is the biggest one. And so very excited to see how it goes and, just continue doubling brands, email retargeting revenue on their website.
Have you planned or have you executed any contests or giveaways like Liam was mentioning, Lachi?
Yeah, as in from July giveaways.
Oh, just like a giveaway. Liam was mentioning that they see a lot of benefit to like creating a large traffic events that sort of helps their product amplify that group further. And I was just curious if you'd tried that.
Yeah, we've done a couple of things. We did the Olympic suitcase giveaway. Also, just we did some traditional TV ads, and we were on during the Olympics, and all of the traffic from there was very much like net new customers. And having Instant in the back end to be able to help us identify some of those customers was great.
Very cool. Liam, if people want to reach out to you personally, would you say LinkedIn is the best place?
Yeah, LinkedIn's the best place. Spending a lot of time in New York, so would love to catch up with any brands that are out there. And pumped to be at Grow LA next week as well.
Nice.
Yes,
I might see you there.
All right, pumped. We're speaking on stage with one of our brands, so very much looking forward to it.
Nice. And what about you, Lachi? If people want to follow your journey at July, where do you recommend they do that?
Probably LinkedIn. LinkedIn's probably a good spot.
Nice. All right. Well, I'll throw those links on the write-up. Thanks for coming on the podcast today, guys. This was great.
Thank you, Eric.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks so much for listening to today's episode. If you're not a subscriber to our newsletter, you can do that right now at directtoconsumer.co. I'm Eric Dick, and this has been the D2C Podcast. We'll see you next time.